Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters Net podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And today I'm actually honored to welcome two very special guests, Christina and Greg, who are part of the
Hi.
vox stix group. How y'all doing?
Hey,
Good, how are
Brian,
you?
how you doing?
Not too bad. And the weather's actually been nice out here. I don't know. Where are you guys hailing from? You guys are all in different
We're
regions because you're not all together, all right?
right, yeah. Well, Greg and I are actually the most together of anybody. We're in New York, so it's been incredibly hot, incredibly humid, and very smoky because of Canada. But yeah, you're right though. We have people. We're 5 out of the 6 of us are Westchester, and then we got one guy in Jersey. So basically the same weather.
You know, it actually did get real smoky down here because I'm from Pittsburgh, and I made the bonehead decision of actually walking out there during one of those days.
No.
Oh, no.
Oh my. Yeah, we
there
have
was a lot of
friends
people
in
out,
the area. Yeah, it was bad though. It was really bad. I mean, it got all the way down to DC at one point. As far as I know, it was like the worst air quality in the world in DC like a week or two ago, I think so. Yeah, we just this is why we just like to stay inside. As
Okay.
much as we can stay inside for anything, we're good.
I'm going to say harkens back to the old 2020 days when
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that whole thing. So, welcome to my podcast, Christina and Greg. The way my podcast usually works is we like to get to know everybody, both as the musicians, but also as the individuals too. I did check out a YouTube channel. You guys are actually pretty unique because I did check out a YouTube channel the other night, and
Yeah.
Christina, it seems like you do a little bit of a podcasting with interviewing indie musicians, and I guess people who do like standalone projects. I guess when did you start that?
So, Vox and Guest, actually, I think the first episode was June 15th of this year. So it's only been 3 weeks or so, but it feels like so much longer because we do usually 3 interviews a week. They're usually about 2 hours a piece. And, we put out 2 episodes every week on Mondays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. And so we've already talked to like 12, 13 people, I think, in the last 3 weeks. But it's been great because, with Vox and Stix as a band, we didn't really necessarily expect to get us into the indie music community as we have. But the community is just amazing on Facebook. And
They really are.
they really are. And so, just connecting with all these people and realizing how much incredible music and unsigned talent is out there. I turned to Greg about a month ago and I said, I think we should do an interview show because I think, we need to give these artists more of a voice. And Greg, being Greg, was like, sure, I can make that happen tech-wise as he always does. So it's been cool. It's been cool to have I can't really call it a side project to the band because it's at least as much work as the band.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been great. It's been great. Everybody's just been so cool to talk to, and we're learning a lot and hearing so much good music. You must have a similar experience with all the bands that you interview too, and the musicians that you interview.
The musicians normally I interview, they're normally people on YouTube, and they're their own drummers. Some of them are in groups, some of them are in like cover groups. Others
Gotcha.
are just kind of like standalone. They're just like doing it as a hobby. It was really meant to be more open. And it was actually meant to help me because I'm a pretty bad introvert too. I don't know how bad you guys are introverts or whether you're pretty extroverted in a way. I don't know.
No, real introverts. Yeah.
Greg talks less than I do, but I'm actually almost as introverted as he is. So people always find that surprising because I talk so much. But I think sometimes introverts talk a lot because we get nervous. So I don't know. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, it was a little tough at first, but afterwards I actually did see questions because I did send you like a little script over to you guys. That's kind of, it's meant to help me out because then it's kind of meant to be like, okay, this is where we're at right here, and then let's see what we
Right.
can do
Yeah.
after that.
I forgot about. I probably should have read that more. But yeah, that's okay. I'm good to just chat anyway. So
Well, we'll see what happens right here. But
yeah.
you guys know how it kind of works right here since Christina, I know you've done interviews, but it seems like we always got to do like a beginning, middle, then pretty much whatever goes in the middle right there, and then wrap it up at the end here. But to start off with the beginning right here, I guess let's start off with get to know you guys a little bit more. I guess how'd you guys get into music, and then how'd you guys meet? So, Christina, if you want to start, and then Greg, you can jump in whenever she's done.
Sure. So I have been a musician in one format or another since I was probably about 3 years old, just, running around singing all the time. And I really started to get into harmonies when I was in chorus in 5th grade. It's like a gateway thing for a lot of singers, at least I think. And, was in bands by the time I was about 15 and always cover bands. But, I do write originals. I don't usually put them out. But, at some point, maybe I will. So just bands my whole life and just, gigging around New York, New Jersey, pretty much wherever. And so that's how I got into music. Honey, you want to go into how you got into music and then we can get into how we met?
Sure. I mean, I took drum lessons when I was little. I started when I was 9, just elementary school. And then in high school, it was I had a pretty influential high school music teacher. We had a great marching band, concert band. In college, did college drumming in marching band for a couple of years, and then I just, it wasn't the atmosphere wasn't for me, so I stopped. And I really didn't do any drumming after that until maybe about 20 years later or so. I started taking music lessons, and there was a rock band workshop at a local music school. And I did that for a couple of years. Like about once a quarter, we would have another band, and then get a bunch of musicians and play a bunch of songs, and then move on to another band. So that's where Christina and I met, and we started a previous band before this one.
Well, yeah. So I mean, we it was interesting because this workshop would take musicians who, were at any skill level, had been in music for 2 weeks or 2 decades, and just kind of couldn't find bands, and just kind of threw us all together.
All different skill levels.
Interesting because, you might have somebody who'd been playing guitar for 50 years with somebody who had been playing guitar for 3 months, and everybody just kind of had to make it work. So it was definitely a challenge. And so Greg and I had both been in other bands prior to that. He'd been in the workshop for a couple years, I guess, and I had only done one season, and I was ready to quit because the band I was in, the first one, there were some really great musicians, but it was just too difficult to figure out songs that you could play across all the skill levels. And it's sort of like it was too hard for the newer people. It was too easy for the more experienced people. And so one of the guys in the band said, stay for one more round. And I said, okay, I'll stay if you can find me a second band that's got more experience, just because, not to be snotty or anything like that. It's just, I feel like it's unfair to people who are brand new to an instrument to expect them to play with people who've been playing their whole lives. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. So, they had somebody fall out, the singer for the band that Greg was in, and, they put me in there, and that was how we met. That was about 6 years ago, I guess.
I mean, and I remember the night we started, and Christina was singing, and I was like, wow, we have a really good singer. And
my husband is biased, and I love him for it. But
yeah, so score. That's what I was like.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and then we basically, the band that we met through there, we left the workshop and just decided to go out on our own. Right. And we were in that band for about 3 years, and it was kind of on its way out anyway. And then the pandemic just was the final nail in the coffin. And so that was when, right at the end of 2020, we decided to start Vox and Stix. And, I said, it's just like me. I really wish, I miss making music, and I wish we could still be in a band somehow. And Greg was like, I think I could make it work to have us have a band online. And I was like, what? And he did it. And so that we've had this band now since, I think we first started rehearsing like January of 2021. So it's been about 2.5 years. So yeah, it was a very long answer to your question, Brian, but it was a very long story. So.
No, I'm going to say this is some good entertainment right here. That's for sure.
Oh, we cut out all the really entertaining parts, but yeah, that's the safe for work version of the story. So, but yeah, so that's that's what we've been doing the last 2.5 years, and we've gone through a couple lineups now. We only have one other remaining original member, so right now it's Greg on drums. I do the vocals. We have Jeff, who's the other remaining original member, on lead guitar, and sometimes he sings. We have Frank, who's on rhythm guitar and vocals, and we have Brian on keys, and we have Chris on bass. And it's just there's such a stellar group of musicians and people.
They're really amazing musicians. I mean, they can play all sorts of stuff. All of them practice outside of rehearsals really well,
as God intended.
And you come to rehearsal and they know their stuff, and it's like, what used to take months to get a song down, now it just takes weeks, and it's amazing.
Yeah, we often say that we feel like we start on the first couple of takes of a new song where we thought we were finished in previous bands after months and months and months of working on them. So, and that's not to ding any of the bands that we've been in the past, but just it's you get a click with certain people, and when everybody's on the same wavelength musically.
Even though we haven't met a couple of them in person, it still feels like they're family, and it's a real. The environment is like, you feel really connected to them.
But yeah, you're right that we're unique, weird, whatever word you want to use for
Special.
It as a musical entity. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of some nice words right there, but I wanted to make sure. I got to say unique. That's right. That's the best word you can say right there. So, all right.
No, it is. It's true. Because, a lot of people don't realize that, because especially during the start of the pandemic, I think a lot of people were doing sort of like recorded collaborations where everybody would, do their pieces and then they'd produce it afterwards and put it out. And so for a long time, I think people thought that that's what we were doing, but we're not. We're 100% live. We're in real time. There are 6 of us. We're in 5 locations. We're in 2 states. We call it vox and stix math.
When we do a show, it's all live. I mean,
everything we do. Yeah.
Mistakes included, if something goes wrong during a live broadcast,
it's like any gig.
But it's like any
if you're
gig.
on stage,
exactly.
It's the same thing. So it's just that it's recorded for all time.
Exactly.
We'll just blame Greg whenever we screw up right here.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, I guess, were you guys, did you have any brushes with COVID, or I guess were you guys okay?
No, we've been insanely careful. We still are. We're high risk here, and most of the band was high risk. I think they've all had it, the other 4 guys. But Greg and I have, been taking measures to stay clear. And it's obviously the pandemic sucks, but the band has sort of been a silver lining coming out of that. Because we
really
wouldn't have met these people otherwise.
It's really something to look forward to once a week for rehearsals. And then practicing at home, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely too. And I figured it was a live stream too, because actually I did see one of yours where you were taking it internationally now, and you start off with the Star Wars sort of theme introduction right there.
Yeah.
That's like Return of the Jedi moment where we zoom
massive
down.
Massive nerds here. Yeah, yeah, totally. We have to have our nerds represented, but we like to. I mean, Greg is the tech wizard behind the whole thing, and so when we do the shows, he likes to add in little things like that at the beginning, and I'll say, oh, well, what if we did this? Or he's like, oh, I have an idea. And so it's always funny what people notice when they watch back, like the Star Wars things seem to have been pretty popular though. So
I did have to laugh because the introduction you use with your Vox and Guess, I actually do have that same introduction audio file, and I actually used that with my
cool.
grip show.
Oh, no kidding.
I've kind of backed away from it, to be honest, because I guess schedule's been a little hectic, to be honest, with because you work 2 jobs, and then you try to do podcasting with YouTube and everything too, and then
it's a lot.
It's a lot to take in. So
yeah,
absolutely. I'm sure you can relate. But it's good to see you guys made it through the pandemic, and I guess everything came out pretty much perfect in the end, because actually you guys formed this group Vox and Stix, and you also got Vox and Guest with a little podcasting, and you took that now to Spotify. Are you guys trying to expand your presence on the podcasting side now?
Yeah, well, Greg, you got us everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, just all the different platforms. If you go to our website, you'll see
And YouTube too, obviously, is
and
sort
YouTube,
of that's where we premiere each episode.
Right, and we have a chat in YouTube, and we got a lot of dedicated people that show up for every episode.
I mean, we should shout out Anger Overdose, Freaky Things, Asphalt Jungle, Death Pigeon's on most of them. Fossagrim Records is on most of them. We've had Mechanic A on a lot of them, Crypt 13, Mama's Maiden Studio, Superposition. Right. It's Jamsteak shows up when they can, and Angela from Yellow Friani. So we have a core group, and I know there are other people that I haven't mentioned, but they show up every Monday and every Thursday for 2 hours and watch amazing. The show and chat with us. And it's astounding to me the time investment that people are willing to put into watching the show. And it's great, because we always will premiere an episode, and the person or the band that we're interviewing will be in the chat. And so everybody can talk to them, and they get real-time feedback on how people are experiencing the episode. And what I love about it most, besides the fact that it's just hilarious every time, because we are a weird,
they've
crazy,
all got a
wonderful
great sense of humor.
They do. Yeah. But it's just, I love seeing people get their flowers in real time like that, just like, wow, that was really cool what you said, or, I had no idea that you did this or did that. And, it just, I think being a musician can be very lonely and unrewarding, especially being an indie musician. And especially if you're a one-man band or a one-person band or a solo project, or you work with people, remotely where you're not in real time collaborating. And I think letting everybody see how much people enjoy them and their music, and flooding them with that's the best thing about doing the show for me, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Every episode that Greg and I do probably takes about 10 hours, from prep to the interview to reviewing for editing to watching it back for the chat and promotion and everything. And we're doing 3 of them a week. So it's, it's like a 30-hour a week commitment. So it is a lot of work, but it's so worth it, because everybody's, everybody deserves it. And everybody's just been great. So thankfully we're putting in work for people who who deserve it, who we really like. But yeah, on top of the band, though, it can get a little bit tricky, because we've got interviews Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We've got premieres Monday, Thursday, and we've got rehearsals for Vox and Stix on Wednesday. So I think Tuesday's the only night that we don't have something scheduled. And then there's that whole life thing that goes along with it. So a little bit busy, but that's okay.
Yeah, I can understand what you mean too, especially when you try to overload your schedule too much, especially when you're young as well. I think it starts to wear and tear at you at some point too. Then it's like, Jesus, I'm starting to get old, that sort of thing too. So
yeah, I don't know how young we are at this point, but it doesn't feel very young by the end of the week. It's like, I'm ready to just pass out. I'm so tired. But yeah, it's there are a lot of musicians, so there's always something to do.
Yeah. But you're secretly a metalhead, aren't you, Christina? Because you were interviewing. Was it John the other night, that the guy who listened to Cradle of Filth and got into the black metal sort of scene?
Oh man, yeah, that was Josh from Without the Sky and Under the Yggdrasil and Rotting Sun Records. Yeah, so it's funny. I talk about this a good bit on Vox and Guest, but I have, we've been on Facebook for 6 years. I mean, half of that was with the other band, and then Vox and Stix. But only since about maybe March of this year did I start getting in contact with all these indie musicians. And I still don't remember how it happened. I know Anger Overdose was one of the first bands that I really started talking to. And they're hilarious. They're just Rob and Ambrose and Mel now too. But just really funny guys. And, we would get into these GIF wars on Facebook, just go back and forth and be stupid with each other and make each other laugh. And I noticed that a lot of the musicians I was talking to ended up being metal musicians. And so, I for every show, I listen to every single thing that's available on streaming for every musician, every band. So I get this really in-depth education on everyone's discography. And so, I find myself saying things now like, Well, honey, I'll get your dinner in a minute. I'm talking to Death Pigeon, and then I have to prepare for Shovel Monster. Like, these are things that I never thought I would be saying. But yeah, I really,
But they turn out to be the sweetest, nicest people.
The nicest people. JD from Death Pigeon is one of my favorite people in the universe. He's just so lovely. And if anybody watches his interview, you'll see that. I could just talk to him all day. But full disclosure, I would not first sit down and choose to listen to metal in my spare time. Like, it's just not, I love melody and harmony, and as a singer, I'm always paying attention to lyric and vocals, and I can't sit down to Encircle Throne and just scream along, but I absolutely have developed an appreciation and an ear for metal, for the different subgenres of metal, black metal, death metal, speed metal, groove metal. There's so many different versions of metal out there, and if you're paying attention and you're not being judgmental and you give it a chance, all of this music has something in it. It really does. I mean, the orchestration of it, sometimes the actual literal, orchestral pieces of it, the vocalization that they do with the Fry screaming and all of that. Mm-hmm. It's not something that you can do easily. The mood that they have to create and the work that goes into that. And then you have a band like Anger Overdose, for example, where you've got Ambrose just shredding on guitar, just absolutely virtuoso guitar playing over metal, and it's all different. So yeah, I've I don't know how closeted I am as a metalhead anymore, because I'm talking to all these bands, and everybody knows how much I'm enjoying them. But it has been the weirdest, coolest thing to get thrown so hard into. And some of these bands are like Isiga Venin, who we're going to be talking to on Friday, and Shovel Monster. Like, they're really aggressive, they're really intense, like it is melt your face off metal. Mm-hmm. And I sit there and I'm like, yeah, I'm in it, I'm into it.
It's like what happens to some of the characters in Raiders of the Lost Ark when they open up the Ark of the Covenant. It's like,
yes.
Exactly. You chose poorly. Yeah, except I chose wisely. So you're right, though. It's like it totally just blows you away. And I mean, like, I was just mentioning Josh from Without the Sky and End, and he's somebody who, talking to him, he was one of the most chill, calm, relaxed, quiet, thoughtful, pensive guys that I've spoken to in a long time. And then you go and you listen to his vocals on his albums, and it's like, wah! And he's screaming his head off, and there's all this intensity, and I'm like,
but it's got to be cathartic, right?
That's what they all say.
Oh yeah,
that's what I should start doing that.
Yeah,
I should just start walking around screaming.
Oh no, we're turning vox and sticks into vox and metal. There we go.
Yeah, right, exactly. Vox and sticks and metal pieces or whatever. But yeah, so that's been really cool. And I mean, we do talk to people from all different genres. I mean, I'm talking to Louis Tivy tonight. He does more punk music. We talked to Electric Tardigrade last week. He does more EDM. And Nelios, who does kind of like a jazz fusion pop rock kind of thing. So it's not all metal, but it's a lot of metal. My metal homies out there, yeah. So
represent that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's right. I got to go like that, right?
That sort of thing.
Exactly.
Right. But that's also the stereotype people make of metalheads. They think like, oh, they're just rebellious teenagers, and they probably don't use their brain too much, that sort of thing too. They're not as compassionate, that sort of thing. It's so wrong. Like, these people are really down to earth. You just need to give them a chance.
They are. That's right. That's
exactly.
right. That's right. I mean, like, one of the things that we were stunned by is there's a charity that we work with a lot called Yellow for Yanni. It's a little boy. He's going to be 3 very soon. And he was diagnosed with this progressive, usually fatal genetic childhood disorder last year. And so one of the ways that I initially connected with the indie community was, we were putting on a fundraiser for the foundation. And these people, Anger Overdose, Asphalt Jungle, Shovel Monster, Jamsteak, they adopted this little boy. I was in tears half the time that all of that was going on, because Jamsteak did a series of 4. They do weekly jams on Wednesdays on their YouTube channel, and they dedicated 4 jams, a whole month, of them to Yellow for Yanni, and they were taking donations. They had a little sign up and everything, and Shovel Monster made Yanni a little custom T-shirt with the Shovel Monster logo and his name on it, and Asphalt Jungle decided to donate all of his streaming proceeds in perpetuity to the foundation. And, you know, Ambrose and Rob from Anger Overdose were just like, everybody just rallied, you know, and I just thought, you know, man, it's exactly what you just said, Brian. Like, there's this stereotype, and I think we have too many stereotypes in the world as it is, that these people are going to be, you know, horrible, evil, nasty, rude, mean, and they just really, to a person, have been, as Greg said, I mean, right, honey? We've just like...
Oh, they're amazing. The nicest, sweetest people, really.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's also funny with, like, the metal names, too. Like, you know, with, like, Pigeon. Yes. Or
yeah.
Shovel Multitude. Like, no, you are not a rock band at all. You are a metal band, that sort of thing, too. I mean...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. But, you know, as long as you're a good person in life, I don't really care what you do. Like, I'm there for it. As long as you're a good person. That's really my main criterion for anything, is just be kind. You know, I think that drives everything that we do as a band, everything we try to do with Vox and Guest as a show, everything we try to do as people, Greg and I, and everybody in Vox and Stix, all the guys are incredibly kind. I mean, they dedicated a ton of time to prepping for that fundraiser show. And, you know, we knew we weren't going to be making any money off of that personally, and nobody cared. Everybody was just like, whatever we can do for the foundation, whatever we can do for Yanni and Angela and Chris, his parents, and, you know, and people just really showed up. I think we raised, well, the fundraiser raised, everybody raised. It was something like, by the end of it, wasn't it like $4,000 or something?
About that, yeah, I think so.
And a lot of that came from the indie music community, which was incredible. So I adore. I'm so honored to be part of that community. I really am. Just the show is kind of a love letter back to everybody, you know, to thank them for just being them and for everything that they do. And thankfully it gets to be a genuine love letter, because I actually really do like all the music. So it works out well.
That's good to hear. And very nice job. And especially thanks to all the indie musicians out there who are doing this good thing for everybody else. I do have to say, though, the funny thing is, one of the bands is called Cattle Decapitation. I recommend checking out the vocalist. His name's Travis Ryan. He's got such a dynamic range. I thought he's one of the best ones with the best vocal dynamic range in death metal too. So Cattle Decapitation.
I'll definitely check that. Yeah, okay. Okay, cool. I like the shout out. I definitely do.
And I guess, where can people go to if they want to support this charity or any other charities that any of these groups got going on?
Honey, I've talked a lot. You want to give the URL?
Yeah, I mean, if they go to yellowforyanni.com, or if you go to our website, voxandstix.com/yellow, it'll take you right there.
Yeah, that's easier, because Yanni can be tricky to spell, but it's yellow, FORYIA, sorry, and so YIANNIS, but go to voxandstix.com/yellow. That's easier. And people can donate, or they can always just message us or whatever, and we can get them there. But thank you for mentioning that, because they need all the help they can get. That is every parent's worst nightmare there.
Yeah, they can also text the word rock on ROCKON to 53555 to donate.
Word. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, we got any way you want to donate. You could also probably just attach some money to a pigeon and aim it at their house or something. I wouldn't recommend that though, but yeah.
No, I think we get lost in transit at some point.
Yeah,
we can't do it where we just set a raven off and hope it ends up in Winterfell at some point.
Unless it's a death pigeon or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Those winter pigeons. Winter has come at last. That sort of thing.
Right. Exactly. All right. Yeah, no Game of Thrones donations, please, people.
All right. But thank you guys so much. And all right, let's get into the band right now. So you touched on it a little bit with COVID being like the starting point right there, and I guess how you guys met and everything too. So I guess let's jump into the history a little bit. I guess what made you guys want to just stick to being just remote? And I guess I guess I'll elaborate on everything else about Vox and Stix too.
Yeah, I mean, well, just to frame it up, and then I want to throw it to Greg because, and first of all, thank you for asking, because you are the first person who's interviewed us who's actually given us an opportunity, because I don't know if people understand how amazing what Greg has set up technically is. Because Greg and I are, he's sitting, 10 feet away from me right now. We're in the same place, but, three of the other guys in the band are, somewhere within 45 minutes of us. And then we got Frank an hour away. And the fact that most people don't even realize that we are remote and playing live in real time is all down to Greg. But so just to frame up the part about the band, we really, we're not going to be going out. We weren't going to be, playing in bars and enclosed places and whatever. We're just not going to be comfortable with that. Yeah. And, December 2020, I think a lot of people were still doing things online or whatever because of COVID. And, we decided to start it that way. And, we've kept it up that way because, first of all, we don't have to pack up equipment. We don't have to drive anywhere. We don't have to load out, set up, break down. We don't have to do any of that. If we want to do rehearsal, we basically just come downstairs and sit in our music room here and we're ready to go. And so are all the guys. And given that we have, Frank is an hour away, logistically, just getting everybody together with jobs and kids and whatever would be impossible. What were you going to say, honey?
No, that's it.
No. Oh, yeah. So that's why we've decided. And now at this point, there's really no great impetus for us anytime soon to go playing out in person. We will at some point, most likely festivals, summer festivals outside or something, maybe next year or in the fall. But so that's why we've decided to stay remote. But I want to hand it to Greg because I want him to get to talk about the technology because it's amazing to me what he's done.
So when we first started, we interviewed a couple people on
auditioned.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Audition basically on Zoom, and when I met Jeff, he was like, I've heard of people doing remote music, but I don't know anything about it. So I was like, okay, well, so I did some research and I found a program called Jamulus, which is open source. It's free. You can download it. It's like jamulus.io, and it basically. They use a protocol to make to lower the latency to under 30 milliseconds so that you don't have that this huge amount of latency that you can't keep in time anymore. So as Christina said before in other interviews, if you try to get people to sing happy birthday
over Zoom,
it's impossible. It turns into a complete disaster, and that's because of the latency. So I was like, okay, so I download that thing. You can set it up as a server. So I set it up as a server so that everybody basically connects to my machine. And then we were rehearsing like that for a while. And for a little while, we didn't have visuals. We only used audio. And so someone's like, well, I can't see you. I was like, okay, well, so I hooked it up Zoom so that we can see each other, but we don't use Zoom for audio. So we send the audio through Jamulus.
Well, you can actually. Jamkazam has.
There's another platform called Jamkazam that we looked into.
Yeah,
but that's not free.
No,
it's paid.
And we're cheap. But it has integrated audio.
It does
and
have integrated audio and video.
But you don't realize as a band how much you need to look at each other to cue. And so Greg was like, all right, we need that.
Yeah.
So he gave us the cheap way of doing
it. So we were rehearsing for quite a while like that. And it was working out pretty well, except the fact that we were all kind of getting, I guess, unsatisfied with the audio quality. It was
mostly you, dear, mostly you, the perfectionist.
It was in mono. It was flat, so there was no dynamics to it.
Yeah, if you go back to our stuff from 2021 or even early 2022, the sound is very different until Greg entered the chat again.
Especially the bassist was like, I can't hear myself because the bass tones are the ones that kind of get are the worst. They get cut off the worst. So I went back to the drawing board. I watched some YouTube videos and did some more research, and I found that So there's
Don't give away too much here. Don't give away too much of the secret sauce.
We're right down the secret documents right here. We're going to be taking away to our logo next.
So I found a DAW that Jamulus would hook into, and I set that up, and it worked. I was able to get the Jamulus output into a DAW.
So now we have EQ and compression.
And then go through and add all the
Don't say
stuff.
too much. You work too hard. Don't give your stuff away, because Greg is available to consult for setting these things up if anybody wants to hire him out. But don't give it away for free.
So then it was a matter of taking that audio, which sounded better now, and sticking it to video with the Zoom, and being able to stream it to YouTube or wherever. So that's where OBS came in. So we use OBS for that. Open broadcast system. Again, it's free. You can download it. And the last remaining piece was that periodically while we were rehearsing, we would get these things we called the cataclysm, where basically like
people need to know about
the whole
router.
thing would just like freeze up. Well, I mean, like, I'm autistic. I need to go through all the details, right? So,
I know, but
so
I'm
that
going
was
to
the last
feed you because you need to.
Was the router? So
don't say too much.
I got a special router, and
he did something cool, and now it's better. And that's all you need to say.
And that fixed that. So,
but no, it's really for Greg. This has been such a labor of love, and at every point, the rest of us were satisfied with what was going on. And he'd say, now that I've got the latency down, I really feel like I want to work on the sound quality. And okay, he would say to me, I'm going to research,
it took about a year.
and EQ and compression and whatever. And then the next morning he'd come in all dejected, and I'd be like, what's the matter? And he's like, well, I haven't mastered EQ and compression yet. And I was like, you do realize that people go to school for sound engineering for years? Like, what are you talking about? This is not the Matrix. You can't just upload that information to yourself. And, and then he got, the sound where he wanted it. And he's like, I feel like I could just get the sync between the video and the audio better. And then he got that. So it's always, he's always improving it. And I'm so grateful to him. I know the whole band is, because if it weren't for Greg, Vox and Stix, and really Vox and Guest would not exist. Because it's there's a lot more to it than what I let him describe. But he's
the other thing is, if I didn't have an electronic kit, and I use a Roland, Christina was, and her parents were so kind to give me one for my birthday. But I have electronic kits, a Roland.
Roland, yeah. Here.
Roland. And
the hungrier Greg gets, the chattier he gets. So I'm giving him some
and that way
Smarties.
I don't have to mic a kit. It's all electronic.
Yeah. But no, and I mean the other thing we should say is that the guys have been incredibly patient with the process of being in a remote band. We moved last year, and our internet connection was just nowhere near as good as it had been. And there were probably about 3 or 4 months there where there were all these dropouts. There were all these, as we call them, cataclysms. And it was just very hard to get through a rehearsal. And then Greg, worked his magic again and got us back up and running. And, the guys have been astounding. I mean, I think they would probably be playing out in person.
Very patient.
If it weren't for us. But
very patient.
Yeah, we can't afford to do that just health-wise. So very grateful to Jeff and Frank and Brian and Chris, who are tremendous musicians, tremendous people, as we said, for sticking in this weird little project with us. But, what I like to tell people, because, we got a lot of crap for it for a while. Like, oh, how could you be a remote band? Like, that's not a real band. You're not playing out in person. You don't have an audience. Or, even people who are being kinder about it. And by the way, we do have an audience, but that's a whole separate thing. But, people who are being kinder about it would be like, oh, I don't think I could do that. Like, I need the feedback from the crowd. I need to hear the applause and see people dancing. And like, I don't think I would be content to just be in my house and whatever. And we, even before we hooked up with this indie community of musicians, we have it set up, thanks to Greg yet again, where, during a show, I have a chat going in YouTube and I can see everybody's comments, and it works just fine. We feel like we get plenty of love, and we just enjoy making the music, but it is a weird thing to exist as a band only online. And maybe that's part of why it's been so easy to connect with these indie musicians because many of them are either solo projects where they couldn't possibly play out live in person because it's just them, and they are making all these tracks, and they're, and building songs, and unless you went on stage and played mostly to tracks, you really couldn't do that. Or, they're bands, but they're piecing things together remotely, sending in parts and whatever. And so they get it. They get playing, putting music out into the world that you don't get instant feedback on. You're not in front of an audience listening to people clapping and screaming or booing and throwing things at you, depending on the crowd, But, we love the music, and we really just all love each other. So it works out just fine for us, as strange as it might seem to other people. We're used to being strange.
That's what makes people unique, is experimenting in strange ways, too. I would say I call it the Nickelback effect when they throw things at you now, because when they were in Portugal, people were throwing like these little rocks at them, too.
Oh, no. Oh, that's horrible.
Oh, my gosh. It was absolutely terrible. I think it was because they were at a metal venue. I think it was one of those heavier metal groups.
Oh, it was like a Blues Brothers moment. Yeah, okay.
It was something like that. And
I got you. Yeah,
still
not. Don't throw rocks at people. That's not cool. Just go back online when you get home and tweet about how terrible it was. If you have to do something, don't throw rocks. Nickelback's not.
You see it turn around. You just see it like hit him right here. That sort of thing.
Jeez, that's hard. I hope they got kicked out. That sucks.
I but yeah, know, but Nickelback just left the stage right there. Of course, I was like flicking them off, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
too, so.
Exactly. Thankfully, we've never had anything thrown at us, so I think we're okay.
We gotta get the virtual.
If people
tomatoes.
Want to throw things, they could throw dollars or something. We would take that. That's okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Throw money at us. Not coins, though. That would hurt.
I would say, here's your virtual tomatoes. That sort of thing too.
Yeah.
So,
splat.
All right, that's pretty cool. And I do know about OBS. I know sometimes it's a little bit of a pain when I try to do some of the stuff with. Doing live streams and stuff like that too, because I get my own little cataclysm moments. Because I was literally trying a bunch of drum covers the one time from a metal group I knew from the UK, Bolt Thrower. They were one of my favorite groups, and I went through the whole thing, and at the end it was like there's no audio or anything. It just shows the picture and it's jumping all over the place. So
oh, how frustrating!
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely frustrating. I had to delete it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me!
Man.
Oh man!
So I think I'm going to try again maybe later this month too, because I at least figured my schedule, because sometimes what I do with any sort of my podcast interviews, I like splitting into two parts too, because it seems like these days the attention span is not as good as it used to be. So if it's something that is like over an hour, say like an hour and 20 minutes, split it like 40 and 40 and make it easy on people.
We had a debate about that. Well, as much as Greg and I ever debate about anything, we tend to agree on pretty much everything. But because we were originally, and it's laughable to me now as a concept, thinking, okay, well, we should keep for exactly the reasons that you said, because it's the TikTok brain now. You can't focus on anything for more than a minute at a time. Saying we should keep these interviews to like 30 minutes, an hour, definitely at the max. And we're like, yeah, definitely at the max. It's not going to be any longer than an hour. And the very first interview we did with Jamsteak, I think, was like an hour and a half, something like that. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep this down, because, there's just too much to talk about. There's too much music. There's too much, personality and too many stories. And we thought about breaking up the episodes. And Greg started out by doing that. And then we just kind of figured, and I agree with you, like it's definitely a good way to go. But for us, it was just like one more thing for him to do to break it up. And we were like, people can just stop watching and pick it back up or not. But I hear you, like that's part of why I'm so grateful to everybody who watches and listens to these things, because they really are. I mean, I think our average interview length has been like an hour and 45 minutes. They've almost all been 2-hour episodes, some a little under, some a little over, and people are just there. And I'm inexpressibly grateful for that, because I know how busy everybody is. And it's cool that people think that the show is interesting enough to watch it for that long, but I put that down to the musicians, and you have the same thing, that you could talk. Like, I know you just interviewed Sean Thunderfoot Wells. We just talked to him last night, and what a great guy. And like, it's so easy to spend 2 hours talking to somebody like Sean, but people do like bite-sized things. So I totally know what you mean. Yeah,
Sean was a really cool dude, and
really cool.
He was into a lot of the same music I am, even though I think he's playing a lot more of the classic rock stuff. Even though every now and again I do a Metallica, Pantera, and those sorts of songs too. But he does more reels, and his videos are all like the real short ones.
Yeah,
especially YouTube shorts. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's going to start making longer ones eventually, which I'm happy about, because the more of Sean we get, the better.
I know earlier you talked about how Yanni was suffering from this terminal cancer too, and some of these interviews I've done with people who've had like what I want was like a quadriplegic, or someone who, like Sean, for instance. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his condition because it's one of those
arthrogryposis multiplex congenita. Yeah, AMC. Yeah.
AFC. Let's just keep it that. Let's keep it because I'm terrible with science names, but
that's okay.
You realize music here, and it's also pretty touching too, how really in some sort of way it really helps people come together, or even like pick up something that you wouldn't have thought was possible. So
yeah.
I guess, have you run into any powerful interviews like those ones yet, or was Sean kind of like the first one?
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, I think whether it's, as I say, pretty much every episode, we spend a lot of time on Vox and Guest talking about mental health. We spend a lot of time on the Vox and Stix page talking about mental health. And, I think most musicians, and honestly, I have the feeling that most creativity goes hand in hand with some sort of mental health issues. I think a lot of people use art, music, literature, whatever kind of creative form they exist with, as a way to process things in their lives and express things in their lives and share things in their lives. And so every single interview we've done, well, not every, but most, people have touched on the idea of mental health. In terms of physical health, JD from Death Pigeon was talking some about, his struggles with his physical health over the last couple of years, and, Sean with AMC, although Sean and I had a great conversation about it with a different frame, from the standpoint of, don't tell me what you can't do. Tell me what you can do that I can't do, because you have AMC and I don't. And he had great answers to that. But I think everyone who, everyone who struggles in some way, and they're making something beautiful with that, whether it's music or any other form of art, that touches me. I shout out people a lot on my lives too. Like, there's an artist who goes by Simple Jack. He's very open about his, journey and recovery from addiction, and, has been sober for, I'm not even going to begin to, I think he's something like, 150 days or something at this point, which is tremendous. Love supporting stuff like that. The Wormwood Project, we just connected with Aubrey. He also talks about his journey in recovery, and his album Ghosts, about people that he felt like he couldn't save over the years from addiction. Love to support that. It is astounding to me how open people in this community have been about sharing things that most people don't talk about. And, for someone like Sean, who has a visible struggle, I don't even like to call it a struggle, because it doesn't seem to impede him in any way, but he has a physical condition that people can look at and see and ask him about, which some stupid people actually probably do. That's one thing. But if you're dealing with issues of mental health, addiction, anything like that, those are invisible difficulties, right? And so people might not know about them. And one of the most touching interviews that I've done so far, if not the most, and that's saying a lot, was we talked last week with Aaron from Electric Tardigrade. And Aaron makes this really cool, very groovy, ambient, as I said, electronic kind of music. And he has one of the most intense, significant stories that I think I've ever heard, not just on a show, just in life. And he's still here against literally all odds. And that interview, I finished up with him, and I got on Facebook Live, because I usually like to do that to promote the shows that are coming up. And I just basically cried on Facebook Live for about a half an hour, just about how wonderful he was and how brave he was to share his story. So, I mean, everyone who comes to Vox and Guest, and even just the people that I talk to on Vox and Stix on the page or whatever, I'm so grateful to all of them for being honest about what they're struggling with, because you really don't know who you're going to help by putting that out there. And Greg and I talk about that all the time, just how remarkable these people are.
Yeah.
You know, it's remarkable to me. And I'm honored that people spend time talking to me about anything, but especially things that are so personal. That really is that is an honor for me. So yeah, definitely we've had some really intense and meaningful and special interviews. They've all been great in their own way, but some of them have really gotten me. So yeah.
I do have to say, is it like part of your script, or is it like something you kind of like explore as you guys keep getting in depth with like your conversations during the interview?
Yeah, I don't script because I have ADHD, and even if I wanted to do that, I don't think I could focus on a script. So I mean, I'm something that I am good at, I think, is just talking for whatever that's worth. And so because I show up and I'm just myself, and these people are showing up and they're themselves and they're open and they're honest, we just have these conversations. You know, I mean, I do, as I said, a ton of prep. It's probably been an hour or two per interview where I'm listening to everything, but all I know at that point is basically the music, right? So like you said at the beginning, with one of the things that I love so much that you do with this show is that you don't just want to get to know the people as musicians, you want to get to know them as individuals too. And that's, I'm right there with you, because that's one of the best things about Vox and Guest for me, is that I sit down, you know, and I have ideas of things I might want to ask if I remember them. But a lot of times, like my conversation with Sean yesterday, you know, I figured I'd ask him about AMC because, you know, it's kind of the elephant in the room, but I wasn't planning on talking about it very much because it's a fraction of who he is. But because of the way that he answered some of the questions, we ended up, you know, all the way over here in a conversation, you know, and Greg was sitting there in the end of it going like, I was really interested in that. I was like, I was too. I was really curious to hear what he was going to say next, you know, and I applaud, you know, you and people who do what you do, where you have like a format and you know what you're going to ask and you're thoughtful about it or whatever. I just kind of show up and start talking and hope for the best. And because everybody's been so great about, you know, coming to these things fully transparent, the conversations have been really resonating with people, you know, and so it's fun for me too, because you don't know who's going to show up on the other side of the screen, right? Like like, especially with these metal musicians that we were talking about, like Greg and I are kind of like, okay, well, today we're going to meet Death Pigeon. Let's see what he's all about, you know? And if JD had showed up and he was, you know, drenched in black paint and chewing on a mouse or something, it wouldn't have necessarily like fazed me, because I'm like, okay, you know,
or when we interviewed Narok, Vile, and like, I get into the app and I see the little square where the camera is, and there's this face, you know, with all this amazing makeup. And it's makeup. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, you know, so then
he calls out to me. He's like, this is cool. Wait till you see what Vile is doing. And I got on and I was like, oh my God. He did a whole face at me.
And then I was like, and he's fantastic. He's hysterical, you know. But
that's it. Like we don't know, because we don't meet anyone until we start taping the show, you know. And so it is a real lottery of just who are we going to get and what are they going to be like, and everybody's been different, and some people have been out there and some people have been just so like Josh from Without the Sky, and you know, just so unassuming and so quiet, and you know, Grimrock, Joel from Grimrock, like just very, very down to earth dude, you know, and you just don't know what to expect based on the music sometimes, or the image, or the genre, but yeah. So I don't script it. Maybe at some point I would, but it's been working so far. So I think I'll just skip it, because I like letting people tell me what they want to tell me, and that's why we don't really edit episodes either. There's been one that we've edited just you know, at the artist's request, but because I don't like to decide, and neither does Greg, what other people are going to find interesting, right? You know, so if people are willing to sit there for 2 hours and watch it, then why the hell not? You know, just let people see what we get, because we've walked away from every interview going, wow, you know, like that was really cool, and I learned a bunch of stuff I didn't know about this person, and weren't they great, or weren't they funny, or wow, they were so much quieter or calmer or this or that than we expected, or so. It's a surprise every time. Every time.
I would say for me, the reason why I always had to like duck my head and always like kind of come up here, it's like I'm getting in the zone, that sort of thing too, and it's like a switch, that sort of thing. Yeah. Now I become Brian, the interviewer, that sort of thing.
That's it. It's hard, right? Because like especially with me, like because I have ADHD, to focus so intensely on something for an hour or two or whatever, it's kind of exhausting, right? Like, so you have to get into. I appreciated that you were marshaling your interviewer superhero thing or whatever, and then went right into professional mode. I was very impressed.
It'd be like bringing the cheese or thing, that sort of thing. So
exactly, right.
All right. Yeah. We're all doing a good thing. So thank you guys so much for all the stuff you do right there. And actually exposing these individuals and like kind of showing like what sort of talents they have too right there. So
yeah. Well, you too. You do the same thing. Thank you right back.
But I do have to ask, and I don't know if you guys touched on it. How did you come up with the name Vox and Stix? Because I know Vox is like the name of like one of those media centers that like talk about politics and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I realized that later. I was like, oh crap. But yeah, honey, I'm talking too much. Do you remember how we came up with it? I do, but I want to let you say something.
At first, it was just a placeholder. And obviously, like, Christina's the Vox and I'm the Stix.
Because he plays drums. Yeah.
Exactly. And so then, we were like, what kind of name should we come up with? And I'm like, well, why don't we just keep Vox and Stix? Like, it's short. It's got 2 X's. It's unique.
Just like us.
Yeah, right.
But I was worried that the people that joined the band were going to be insulted because, there's also strings and keys. But they were all like, yeah, we don't care. That's cool. It's a cool name. So we just kept it. But yeah, it was not intended to be.
And I was able to register the domain. So
yes, as we've learned with a lot of these bands, they just, if you find something that nobody has already, you got
to hear Narok's story. Oh my God.
Yeah, Narok like literally had to invent a word so that they could find a name that wasn't already taken. Yeah, so yeah, we were pretty lucky with that.
Using non-standard characters. Yeah.
People will mispronounce the name, so sometimes we'll get Vox and Stix or Vox plus Stix. We have a particular thing we always do, all lowercase. We always do the plus, and so people will do capitalization with the ampersand and whatever. And that's my autistic brain where I'm like, I can't deal with it. And I'm like, I'm just going to let it go because nobody means badly by it. But, it's been, it's something that's recognizable to people at least. And, it's as long as nobody in the band was offended by it, which was my only real concern. We were like, all right, if we're done with the name, because the process of picking our previous band's name was such a hassle. And we never ended up really liking it all that much anyway. So I was like, let's just stick with it. If everybody likes it and they're good, we like it. We'll move on. We have enough else to do. So yeah, that's how it was, just meant to be a placeholder. But here we are, 2.5 years later.
Absolutely. And I guess, what would you say has been like a big influence on like your music styles? And I guess even want to say like, hey, we're just going to form a band right here and then see where it goes. So I guess if you want to jump into that a little bit, because I always feel like that's like the biggest thing too. Because like everyone always looks like, just say classic rock guys, or even the guys before them where they were doing blues, maybe some earlier version of a heavy rock or something like that too. And they'd be like, it goes down the line. It's a generational thing. It's bequeathed to a generation too. Right. So I guess, who would you say was your biggest influences?
I mean, so we're a cover band. So song selection has always been a thing. It's always been tricky.
It's the hardest part of
the hardest part really of this
by
band
a million miles
is picking songs, because each one of us has very different tastes in music.
Well, we have a lot of overlap too.
We have a lot of overlaps. Yeah, we do. But but we had to come up with a process, and I think we probably have got the process down now.
No. Jeff is a big prog rock guy. So Todd Rundgren and, he was in a tribute band to a band that I think a lot of people don't even know, called Porcupine Tree, which once we started listening to the music, it was really good, but I had never heard of it. But, he loves all that Floyd and, just the really guitar heavy kind of stuff, Zeppelin. And And Greg likes a lot of that music too, to listen to, but not necessarily to play. And Chris is a huge Radiohead fan.
And that's one of the things that I've discovered playing in a cover band is that music that you listen to isn't necessarily the kind of music you want to play, and vice versa. So if someone says, "Oh, let's do this grunge song," because I'm not.
I knew you were going to say grunge.
I'm not big into grunge. I just
no. Let's be honest about it.
I don't
hate
like
it.
grunge.
You hate it. Yeah. Anything that came out in the 90s, if you were wearing flannel or plaid, he didn't like it.
Like a bad time. So I don't like. I'm
no
not
Doc Martens for Greg.
But I got to say, as we started to try the songs and I started to practice them, I was like, yeah, this is fun to play. I enjoy doing it. And then when Christina sings it, I was like, okay, this is the icing on the cake, because I don't have to listen to
Eddie Vedder.
Well,
he came to me and I was like, I wanted to cover Black by Pearl Jam. It's one of my favorite songs. And he was like, I don't want to do it. I hate Eddie Vedder's voice. And I was like, you do realize Eddie's not going to be showing up to rehearsals to sing it, right? It's going to be me. And he was like, oh,
if
yeah.
he has an interface and an Ethernet connection, then maybe
he could do it. No, but yeah, it's Brian was in the pit for Broadway musicals for a long time, and he's just such a truly gifted polymath, gifted in a lot of ways. But so he's got all these different influences,
and he knows how to get the right sound. He does a lot of work getting the right sound for a particular song. But
as I was saying, Chris is a huge Radiohead fan, so we have a couple of Radiohead songs already that we've put in the set. I think he's slowly trying to turn us into a tribute.
I'm so grateful for Chris, because he's such an excellent bassist, and when we brought him on, I was like, yeah, he's the one. We got to.
Yeah, they've been locked in pretty well together. But I think I love Fleetwood Mac. Stevie Nicks is one of my. Since I was little in the high chair, I would kick my feet to Stevie Nicks. I grew up listening to my parents listening to the Beatles, the Stones, Fleetwood Mac, Jane Oliver, Carly Simon, Paul Simon, probably other people named Simon. I had kind of a classic rock upbringing, and then I was big into pop when I was a kid. But I like anything that is anything with strong melody lines, anything with harmonies. I'm a sucker for. Punch Brothers, My Oh My is one of my favorite songs. We all have such different. And Greg, grew up on John Denver and the Beatles, and so we kind of all come together with these different, and Frank likes pretty much everything, but he likes a lot more of the punk stuff and the harder stuff than I think most of the rest of us do. I think I've mentioned everybody. So we have a set of criteria for Vox and Stix when we're picking songs to cover. It's, can we do it well? That's step one. Is it even possible? Do we think the audience wants to hear it? And do we like it? And they're in order of importance. Can we play it is obviously first and foremost, but do people want to hear it? Because, we've all been in bands where, you slog away at a song that is not low hanging fruit, and it takes a really long time to get it down, and you go and you play it out and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Our last band, we worked on Back to You by John Mayer, which is a great song. And he might be kind of a tool personally. I have no idea. That's what I hear, but he's a great guitarist. And we worked on that song for a long time with that band. It probably would be faster with this one, but it would still take a while because there's a lot going on. And we played it out once, and literally it was like a bomb had gone off on the dance floor. Like everybody we got 10 seconds into it. People went out for a smoke. They went to the bathroom. They went to the bar. They took a nap, whatever. And we never played it out again. And so that was kind of a lesson to us. Is the juice worth the squeeze, right? Like if it's going to be a song that it takes us, two takes to get and nobody likes it, who cares? It was no skin off our nose. If it's going to take us months to work it up and then nobody likes it, we might want to reconsider it. So Greg's point about song selection is a good one, that it is laborious because we make sure we're a democracy, this band. So every round that we do where we add songs, everybody gets 2 songs that they've chosen. We don't have a dictatorship where Greg and I are like, it's our band and these are the songs we're playing and you either like it or you leave. hate crap. I've been in those bands and I hate bands like that. So so everybody gets to pick stuff, and that's why our set lists are so
different.
Yes, diverse and different. Yeah. But I think it works, you know. So I mean, like the last set that we did, you know, we had a Sarah Bareilles song that Brian picked, which was not like anything else that we were doing, and then we had a Muse song that Greg picked, and then we had what else did we do? I don't even remember. Then we had a Coldplay song and we had a Radiohead song, you know, and like everything. And people seem to like that because one of the things that's easy to fall into as a cover band is playing the same songs that everybody else is playing. You know, so we don't want to go up there and do Dead Flowers and, you know, Stairway to Heaven and Wagon Wheel. And not that there's anything wrong with those songs, but I think people have heard them enough.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we try to do stuff that people will like that they maybe don't hear all the time, that we also like ideally. Although we're all playing stuff that we would necessarily not have picked, especially poor Jeff. I think Jeff is a very kind and patient person, and he hears a lot of no, mostly from me, because he'll be like, "Oh, I think we could do this, you know, Todd Rundgren song or this Zeppelin song," and I'm like, "I can't sing that. I can't pull it off. I can't do it justice." And he's like, "Okay," but he's very sweet about it. So, yeah, we got a lot of influences, but it's hard to pin them down. So hopefully we answered that for you, but I'm not sure if we actually did.
I was say I was just picturing like one of those cartoon moments where it'd be like, "Hey, let's try this something." They're like, "No." I was like, "Okay," that sort of thing.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah, but Jeff picked some really good ones too. He picked, you know, for the set that we're working up, which I won't get into, but he was the one that had us do "Only Happy When It Rains" by Garbage, and I did not think I was going to like it because I found the song annoying to listen to, but it's a lot of fun to sing. So he's done a really good job of trying to meet all the criteria and then come up with something that's like female fronted or something I feel like I can actually do justice to. So thank you, Jeff, because I know you put up with a lot from me. So I have to give Jeff his props.
Colin Gribben, was he a recent member who just joined, or has he just been on and off from time to time? Because actually he has the same last name as me. So
I know. It's so funny when I saw your name come through. I was like, is he related to Colin? Yeah, Colin was, so I'm trying to think. We had a guy just for a couple of months when we first started the band, and he ended up leaving, and our bass player at the time, all of our bass players have been named Chris so far. So Chris 1.0, our first bass player, was friends with Colin and brought Colin in. And the second that we met Colin, we were like, yeah, we got to work with this guy. Colin is, he's hilarious. He is a great performer. He just puts his all into it.
Very passionate.
Very passionate guy. And he and I had kind of like a, you know, big brother, little sister relationship where we would, you know, poke at each other, but all out of love. And yeah, he was with us for a really long time. He came in probably maybe February of 2021, and I think he had to leave, just life stuff. We still miss him. He had to leave, I think, in like May or June of 2022. So he was with us for a little over a year. Yeah, Colin was awesome. And an awesome last name, right?
Yep.
Gribbins unite.
I guess actually our name's pretty more spread out over the whole globe. And it's not just now stuck to Ireland or anything like that too. Now it's like spreading all throughout the U.S.
Everywhere.
Because actually there was a person who used it during Trump's administration. His last name was Gribbin too.
Oh, so there are lots of Gribbins. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. You two are the only two Gribbins I think I've ever met, though. So I guess I'll probably be meeting more if they're becoming so popular. But two good Gribbins so far. It's 2 for 2. So far I'm good with the name.
All right, that's good to hear. And I guess let's jump to social media right here. I guess I don't know if this is more of Greg's forte right here. I guess how do you guys use it so that you're able to like do your marketing, you're able to expand your name and everything else too?
Actually, it's Christina's forte.
Oh, really?
I just do Instagram, like, you know, but really,
I was like, I have no patience for Instagram.
Christina's the one who does all the Facebook interactions, and she's really good at it.
Thank you, honey. I mean, Greg and I, in our marriage and our band and in the show, we're a true partnership. So we try to divide everything up, and not even consciously necessarily. I think that one of the best things about our relationship in all its forms is that we we complement each other. So if the tech were up to me,
you look beautiful today.
Oh, yes, Brian does look beautiful today.
No, I was talking to you.
I know.
We're going that far already.
Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, great. Thank you so much, man.
Each other.
But we our skills and our needs complement each other. So, if I were responsible for the tech, we would be talking on tin cans. Like, it would be nothing. I have no idea of how to do any of that, no ability to do any of that part of it. But Greg will say, I don't want to come up with ideas. I just want to figure out how to make the ideas happen. So, I'll sit there and I'll say, oh, we should start a band. Okay. And then he figures out how to do it. And I'll say, oh, we should do an interview show. And he'll be like, okay. And then he figures out how to do it. And, and we split everything very evenly. But with the social media, it's funny, when I first started the Facebook page, I guess, late 2020, we had the page for 2.5 years, I think, and we had managed through a lot of, wheedling our friends and family as people do, and, running Facebook ads here and there, which I don't recommend because they don't really do anything. Managed to get up to something like 1,200 followers or something, and I was pretty happy with that. But then the page wasn't doing anything, and I felt like I had to be all professional and only talk about band related things. So, I did the thing that all local bands are legally required to do, like, big things coming soon. And then I would never post because there was never anything big coming or even small coming. There was nothing coming. We were just sort of doing our thing. And I don't know, I guess a couple months ago, I just sort of decided to be like, you know what? Who cares? Like, this isn't going anywhere with the page. Let's just have fun with it. And I started posting like music memes that I would make or that I would find or whatever. And, people started reacting a little bit more to it. And then as soon as we hooked in with this indie community, it blew up. I think we went from 1,300 followers to probably 3,000 in the span of like a couple of weeks. Yeah. And, we may have, while we've been talking, hit 5,000. We were just a couple away from it today. And I don't know how that happened. I really don't.
The other thing is the fact that you started a band together.
Oh yeah, that too. So that was back in, I think, either late March or early April. Just looking around and seeing all of these musicians who, and I say this a fair bit, but coming from a cover band community, it's not a very generous community. There's a lot of competition. I was in a Facebook group for a long time, huge Facebook group that is all for cover band musicians, and I'm not going to name it. And there's just so much complaining. You need to do it this way. You can't use iPads. You can't wear cargo shorts. You can't use a capo, or don't have a tip jar, and don't use tracks, and don't play things this way, and don't play things that way. And it's just
like
so
anybody
tedious.
Cares, right?
Well, that's it. Nobody cares except the other musicians. The audience, if it's good music, they don't care if you have an iPad on stage or a music stand or whatever. Nobody cares. And it's a shame, because in that group, there are a lot of really wonderful musicians, but they get buried by like the 10% who are just so vocal and complainy. And, I think it's because with cover bands, as much music as there is out there, it's a finite number of things to pull from, in the sense that, what the average bar crowd is going to want to hear, is pretty much the same from, bar to bar and, town to town and state to state, so there's competition. It's, can you do everybody else's songs better than another band can do everybody else's songs? And with indie musicians, you would think there would be a lot of competition, because it's so hard to get noticed, and it's way harder to get signed, and and to actually have your music hit and become a thing that you can make a living with. And so I looked around and I saw all of these musicians who were just listening to each other's stuff and sharing each other's stuff and supporting each other's stuff. And I was like, this is so amazing. But I'm looking at all these different bands and musicians, and I thought, well, if they all worked as a team, like, they could take over the internet here, like, really. And so I created this group on Facebook called Band Together, and it went from no members to like 500 members to I think we're inching closer to 3,000 members now.
There's a link to it on our website.
There's a link to everything on our website. And it's really, you know, as I'm always careful to say, I don't take credit for the fact that people love Vox and Guest as a show so much. That's down to the musicians that I interview. I don't take credit for Band Together either, because you know, I could have had, you know, 2,500 people who sucked in the group and it wouldn't have gone anywhere. But these people are incredible and they really care about each other. And, you know, so if I post about, you know, Star Uni or, you know, Anthony St. Peter's project or whatever, and especially if I tag everyone, boom, like, you know, I'll say, okay, Star is at 668 followers today. I would like to have her at 750 by tomorrow. And 99% of the time, it's that much and better, you know, because the community just goes, ooh, a new person to support, I'm there, and they do it, and it's incredible. So we were recipients of that as well. But I think, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I think most of the support around the Vox and Stix page at this point is largely because people, it's not so much for our band. I don't know how many people that we talk to every day even have listened to anything that Vox and Stix has done. And I'm realistic about that. You know, I mean, I'm not denigrating it, but we are a cover band, you know, and so it's inherently not as, I don't know, interesting. I don't know, whatever, but it's different from being an indie musician where you're an originals artist or whatever. But people are, you know, as I tell Greg this all the time, I'm like, I always feel like people don't know what the hell to do with me because I don't have an agenda at all. I say this all the time, that helping people is my kink. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. And, you know, people will see that I want to help and support them. And so does Greg, you know, and there's no, we're not expecting anything for that. So the fact that people are so generous, and, you know, we just, I put out a post the other day that we were looking to monetize our Spotify channel for Vox and Guest because, you know, it is an investment of time and money and everything else to do the show, as you know. And, you know, we're never going to take a dime from the indie music community. Like, that's in my head that, like, no, you know, people have offered to send us money or whatever, and we will not do it because people shouldn't have to pay us to help them voluntarily. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And so anyway, but we thought, you know, if we had like if Crocs wanted to advertise on our show for some reason or whatever, you know, that's fine. We can take Croc money. That's fine. But big Croc money. But you know, yeah, exactly. And because then we can keep making the shows, you know, and we don't have to charge anybody that we're interviewing for anything or anything like that. And so I put out a post and I was like, okay, Greg told me we have 37 unique listeners. We need to get to 100 an hour. It was done. It was done. Like, everybody just, and then some, you know, and I mean, we're going to have to do it every month. So I don't know if we're going to be able to keep it up, but like the community was just like, what do you need? Anything you need. And it's just so beautiful. Like, it's so beautiful. So, I mean, I'm on social media as myself. I think if we have a social media brand at this point, it's kind of, God help us all, my personality, for better or worse. You know, I'm just kind of, I go out there, I'm very honest with my lives, and for the things that I post or whatever, I'm just, you know, I'm just being me. And everybody's very gracious. They've been very supportive, but, you know, we're all over the place. We have a TikTok account. We never put anything on it. We're on Twitter. We never put anything on it. We're basically Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, you know, and now with the podcast, some like Amazon and Apple Music, things like that, and our website. But, you know, necessary evil in this age, especially for a remote band, because, you know, we can't go out and play live shows and then have people come and find us on social media and follow us. We had to build a social media following first so that we would have an audience, because we are. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but now, thanks to the indie music community, I'm astounded that 5,000 people even know who we are, never mind want to bother following us and interacting with us on Facebook. So I'm super grateful for that. But it is like a full-time job.
Yeah, really I can relate to. And
oh, I know.
The other thing is, you definitely need the money too, because, like, first off, you got to pay the man, as some people would say. Also with taxes and as well as bills with like electricity and everything else too. So
yeah, little things like that. Yeah.
So that's the thing. Like, it's almost like, okay, I'll take some of that money, but it's like, oh wait, that ethical thing starts to kick in too. Be like, no, this is meant to be for the helping these guys out too. So Yeah, I can see what you mean too. So it's tough. At the same time, it's like, damn, I really need this. That sort of thing too. It would be nice to turn into like a full-time career at some point. Which I'm sure that's probably what you're trying to aim for too.
Well, I mean, Greg loves his job. His other job. That was an opening for you to get to say something here.
No, I'm in
say
IT.
Computer geek, because I mean, I thought the classes gave it away.
Yeah,
that and the whole remote band thing. Yeah,
right.
IT guy.
No, I've been in IT since like 1995, and I love it. It's just like, unfortunately, I have a remote job, so there's no commute. But it's great. I have a great company to work for, and I don't plan on leaving that anytime.
Yeah, and I don't think we have any illusions that anything that we do is going to take over and be a financial life raft for us. I don't think, people keep telling me they think Vox and Guest is going to blow up, and I don't know whether it would or it wouldn't, but I don't think it would be to a point where it would be an actual income for us. But if it could pay for itself at some point with non-indie musician advertisers, that would be nice, because it's a lot of equipment. It's a lot of tech. It's a lot of bandwidth. It's a lot of whatever, I mean, just the gear you need and the internet connection and everything else. But I think we're realistic about the fact that we're always going to have day jobs. That's just the way of things. And honestly, if I had an opportunity to do something that could be like, we could live off of this, I'd probably try to convince whoever was offering that money to sign one of the indie bands instead. Like, give it to Anger Overdose or Jamsteak instead of us. Don't give it to, So, it would be nice. We wouldn't turn it down, but we're not looking to do that or expecting it in any way, shape, or form. We'll just be happy if we can keep the band and the show going indefinitely. That's where we get a lot of our joy. So
I would say it would be nice for it to cover the bills. And that way, day jobs.
Yeah. But it's okay. I mean, I don't want anybody watching to feel bad for us. We're we had a lot of the gear and stuff for the band and everything, and we knew that was going to be a big financial investment. But other people go on big vacations, they buy fancy cars, they buy jewels or whatever. We buy computers. And audio interfaces and microphones and ring lights and stuff like that. So those are our. We don't go to Cabo, but we have really cool looking computers that can actually handle what we need them for. So it all works out in the end.
That's good to hear. And I guess we are down to the last couple of questions right here. But if you had a choice of which venue you wanted to play at, which one would it be if given a chance?
Let's see. Well, I want to give Lucy's in Pleasantville, New York, their props. Rob runs a great place there.
They were really good to us when we were playing out. Yeah,
we used to play there a lot. And they have bands all the time, local bands, some really good bands that play there. They do like an open jam, I think, on maybe it's Tuesdays now. So Lucy's in Pleasantville was great when we used to play out. I don't know what Madison Square Garden, would that be where we would?
Is that right?
I honestly, the best experiences that we've ever had playing out live have been at festivals over the summer. Yeah. And in the fall, they are, it's outdoors. So, you're in a really beautiful space usually where, one of the best places we ever played was on a local waterfront. And, there was a great stage. They had an amazing sound guy. They had their own PA.
Sunset over the Palisades.
Like the breeze from the water. Just tons of people on the lawn in front of us, and
low pressure.
Yeah, we got to play into the the sunset and past it, and that was beautiful. And it was a lot of money, relatively speaking, for very little time and very little effort on our part. So those are kind of the ideal ones. It's almost like a paid rehearsal, Right. But when you have that band, we had 7 people in it. So usually by the time we ended up eating and the bar tab for the guys or whatever, we would owe the venue money. But even if you make decent money, by the time you split it among 7 people, you're going home with like $3 or whatever. But so I don't really miss playing out at venues. But I would be happy to have anywhere that wanted us that we would be comfortable at. playing. But I really do like I like the outdoor festivals a lot. They're more interesting. They're more fun to me, because bars you're competing with TVs and, people trying to sleep with each other and alcohol and, all kinds of stuff. And, generally if you go to a festival outside, you're there for the music. So I don't know. Do you have a place that you'd be itching to play that I'm unaware of?
No, you said it. You said exactly what I would say.
Madison Square Garden or some of those outdoor festivals.
Madison Square Garden or just, a local lawn. What are those two things? One of those might be more attainable than the other. Yeah, exactly.
I think a really large venue like that, I think I would be too nervous. I don't know. I don't think we're going to have to worry about it, my love. No, I think we're probably okay. We're probably not going to be filling Madison Square Garden anytime.
It'll just be a dream, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it.
We'll play it in a dream. That's
or sure. A nightmare for him, as it may be.
Right. I know. You just see him collapse on stage, be like,
exactly.
Sort of thing. He'd be like, "Oh God, Greg! Oh God, Greg!
Wake up! It's okay."
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So I guess before we do jump into the last question, I guess what sort of plans and goals do you guys have for the rest of this year for Vox and Stix and for Vox and Guess?
You want to take down me again? I've talked too much.
I mean, we're working on a new set. Once we get that down, we'll schedule another show. And then
probably September, October.
Yeah, and Vox and Guest, we've gotten, I think it's close to 150 submissions. So we're just working down the list. Honestly.
Yeah, and they keep coming.
And they keep coming in, which is
we got
great.
Like 10 yesterday. So
we're really enjoying the people that
you don't need to pull up the screen. You don't need to
pull up the spreadsheet. We're up to 137. So
that we haven't scheduled yet. Yeah.
Right.
So, So just working through that. Keep promoting everybody on Facebook. Putting out music. Trying to help the foundation, Yellow for Yanni, still, and we got some stuff coming up for that. But yeah, mostly just keep doing what we're doing, and whittle down that list. That list is a big list for Vox and Guest. And we've sort of told everybody, please be patient, because even doing 3 interviews a week, starting at over 150 people is going to take us a year just to do the interviews. And that's not counting editing and broadcasting them and whatever. So, by the time everything's done, we may be 2 years out by the time this initial list has gone. And again, we get like anywhere from 2 to 10 submissions a day. So I don't know when it's going to slow down, but it's a good problem to have. I'm okay with it. But yeah, just, maybe, as I said, depending on where things stand in the fall, if we see like a festival or something in person, we might choose to do that if it works out. But, if not, maybe that would be something for next year. But we're content to just keep plugging away at what we do.
All right. Best luck on your journey going forward there, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess before we do jump into the last question, did you have any questions for me or any final words you want to say before we jump into it?
No, I think I just wanted to. I think we both did. Thank you for bringing us on. It's nice to be on the other end of the interview for once. I just appreciated that you reached out to us, and your show is really cool. So I'm going to be glad to be able to give more sunlight to it than you even already have. Not that you need the help, but yeah, no, this has just been fun to sit and chat with you. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Every little bit helps too. It would be nice to eventually try to make this an endeavor at some point. But like you said, it's kind of up there in dreamland at the moment too. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. So for the last question right here, this is one I always like to ask. So it may seem cliche, but just answer as best you can. Mm-hmm. So given what COVID has done, I think these days people need like some sort of hope in order to like keep going. Some are at least okay, some are at least able to at least get back on their feet and be like, okay, it's just another day in the world, and then here we go. Others, not so much. So for those kind of people, what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians and people out there?
Did you want to start, honey? Or you want me to?
I think you're better at articulating
always
than I am.
First. I thought it was meant to be manners, that sort of thing.
Greg always punts to me on things because he thinks he can't articulate stuff, but he absolutely can. But I think really what it boils down to is that everybody's struggling with something all the time. Whether it's you know, smaller things like just, work is so much work and it's stressful or whatever, which is not necessarily a small thing, or, bigger things like not being able to find work, or, traffic, or, problems in a relationship, or, your kids going through things, or just, not being able to meet somebody, or, and then there's all the bigger stuff, physical health, mental health issues, whatever. So, I mean, I don't know anybody who's unscathed by life. And so I think the main thing is just to put kindness out into the world. I think one of the things that Greg and I talk about a lot, and it's part of what energizes us around Vox and Stix, Vox and Guest, just all the social media and all the work that goes into all of that, is that, in the last 6-7 years, it's been easy to look around and feel like everything is broken, for one reason or another. Just there's so much dissension in the world. There's just so much difficulty, and there's so many things that we're all up against, and so many things that we're up against that we put up against each other that don't even need to be there. And I'm not even talking about anything specific, and I don't, and I won't, but, it's easy to look around and feel disheartened and discouraged. And, especially since COVID started, it can be very easy to look around and feel, lonely, in your life, in your views on things, whatever. And this community of musicians, and just seeing how kind and generous and supportive and loving and thoughtful and wonderful and hilarious and creative and interesting these people are, and that there are still so many good people in the world, and there are still so many kind people in the world, that's given me hope. I think it's given Greg hope. And I think that what it comes down to, for me at least, is find your people. They're out there. The internet can suck for a great many things, but one of the great things that it does is it gives people who would have never otherwise been able to connect with each other a way to find each other. And your people are out there. So whether it's people who are also struggling, whether it's with addiction or mental health crisis or anything else, whether it's, you have a fandom that you just are all about and nobody in your area is into it, there's a place for everybody. There's a tribe for everybody. And I think it's just a matter of looking for it. And
you're definitely not alone.
Not alone. And I mean, if nothing else, the direct and very micro level hope that I can give people is Greg and I are here. You know where we are. If you need us, we're here. And even if that's just to listen, or to support you, or to, just whatever, we're here. But I think kindness and engenders hope. And I think that what I like to say to people is that if you put kindness out into the world, even if nobody gives it back to you, the world is still kinder than it was before. So, if you want kindness, be kind. If you want help, be helpful. Give what you want back to the world. And then even if you don't get it from them, you've made the world a better place, and you can feel good about that. So that's my cheesy answer to a very good question. I don't know, honey, did you want to add anything to that?
No,
just be my hype man.
Said it.
Hope. World.
That's
cheer.
That's what they do. He'd be a cheerleader, right, too. Give me Christina.
That's my honey. He's always got my back.
All right. Christina, she's our girl. She can't do it. Great. That sort of thing. Right.
I like it. I like that. I'll have to use that.
Nope. I spoke like a true prodigy. And thank you so much for your message right there. So,
thank you.
Right. So, Christina, Greg, we've reached the end of my podcast right here. I guess, do you have any final words or any shout outs you want to give before we officially close?
Just big ups to the band, Vox and Stix, Jeff, Chris, Brian, Frank. We love you guys. Thank you for sticking in our weird little world. And, guys, anyone who's watching who's not already in the Facebook indie music community, go look up these bands. They're incredible. They're all over our Facebook page. Brian, can hook you up with people. Just don't only listen to the music that's signed. There's so much good stuff out there, and you just have to be paying attention. So I just want to shout out the whole community, basically. And you again, Brian. Thank you so much for what you do and for having us on.
No worries. Yeah, you already did give away how the people are able to reach you too. I guess, what's your hashtag names so that people are able to find you?
So hashtag Vox and Stix, it's VOXANDSTIX. You can go to voxandstix.com. We're Vox and Stix on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. But again, we have a link tree. Yeah, we're on. Oh, you got us off Twitter?
Got
okay.
us. Got
so we're
Twitter.
not any, but yeah, okay. So we're almost everywhere. But our link tree on our website will get people to us. And basically, if you just stand in the middle of your living room and shout my name, YouTube, loud enough, I'll probably hear you, and you can reach me that way too. But yeah, Vox and Stix. Yeah, that's it. That's it. It's like it's like Beetlejuice. You call my name three times, and I just show up with a microphone. So, but yeah, YouTube and really our website will get you there. voxandstix.com.
Yeah.
All right. So everyone, my guests today were Christina and Greg, both from Vox and Stix, as well as also Vox and Guests. Make sure you go subscribe to their YouTube channels. Go check them out on the socials. These people are doing some great things right here, as well as the people they've interviewed, all the charities they've done. You guys have heard the links. They'll probably be left down in the description below. I'll make sure to leave them there for you folks. Christina, Greg, thank you again so much again for coming on. Stay safe. Stay tuned, y'all.
Thanks, Brian. Bye.
Thanks, Brian.